Part 145. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1441. I shook my head and said, "Grandpa, I'm fine." Alas. Grandpa sighed and said, "Xiao Su, you already know what happened, and you should remember what Grandpa is going to say next." I nodded and said, "Grandpa, you tell me." Grandpa's expression suddenly became very serious and he said, "The sky coffin can't support it for much longer. After the earth and sky god returns to the palace, the sky coffin will start to break." When Grandpa said this, I already understood everything. I lowered my head and was silent for a long time, and said, "Grandpa, I know what you want to say. I have made my choice. I will use my 5 senses and limbs to suppress the monster in the sky coffin again for as long as I need. The meaning of the existence of the sky coffin is to suppress all evil spirits in the world. At the same time, the 9 evil stars are also the key to opening the tombs of the gods. There is one thing I don't understand. The purpose of the sky coffin is to restrict the actions of the gods, but why should I take back my 5 senses and limbs? Let the coffin break and give the gods a chance to escape from the tomb of the gods. Now I understand that the seal of the sky coffin is only temporary. Even if Grandpa does not snatch the 5 senses and limbs, he will be broken, maybe in 100 or 1,000 years, but, this is my last life. If not in this life, once this is done, then no one can control these monsters and gods. Xiao Su, you. Grandpa looked at me blankly, as if he didn't expect me to make such a decision. I smiled at Grandpa and said, "Grandpa, I have been burdened with hardships, regrets and regrets. If I don't make this choice, Su Tianqian will die, and the people around me will die too. For them, I must do this. If I use my 5 senses and limbs to suppress those monsters, I will go back to being deaf and blind, but, so what? As long as I can make the people around me live a good life, the burden on my shoulders is too heavy. Sometimes, I need a person to resist it all, even if it costs my life, I will not hesitate." Alas. Grandpa let out a long sigh and said, "Xiao Su, now that you have made this decision, Grandpa can no longer advise you. This is indeed the best solution. Our family owes Tianqian so much." I smiled and said, "Grandpa, maybe I can't live according to your wishes. Whether it's my grandparents, my parents, my second uncle, or my third uncle, they all want me to grow up healthy, happy, and ordinary. However, I was born extraordinary. Perhaps an ordinary life is a kind of luxury for me." "Xiao Su, you have grown up." "Indeed, I have grown up, and I want to remain a child, but, there is no way." "Grandpa, do it. Let my limbs and 5 senses return to the sky coffin to scare those monsters." Grandpa looked at me, hesitated for a while, and said, "Xiao Su, the sky coffin is the existence that binds everything in the world. Your 5 senses and limbs can only suppress those monsters. Your 5 senses and limbs cannot dissipate too fast, but in this way you cannot truly repair the sky coffin. If you want to repair the sky coffin, you must." I took my grandfather's words and said, "I know, my life. The only people in this world who can repair the sky coffin are me and Su Tianqian. I can't helplessly watch Su Tianqian disappear again. The coffin is about to be broken, and I don't have much time left. I can only extend the time by sacrificing the 5 senses and limbs. Only in this way can I have more time to solve the remaining 3 evil spirits and the tombs of the gods." Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1442. "Grandpa, do it, time is running out. I have to kill the ancient beast as soon as possible, and then leave the sky coffin. Huaxiu and the others are still in danger, and I must save them. Xiao Su, you have to be mentally prepared. Once you make this decision, you will slowly lose your limbs and 5 senses. At first, you may be blind, then deaf and mute, and finally you will not be able to do normal activities. Arrive. I have known what Grandpa said for a long time. When the limbs and five senses return to the sky coffin and suppress the monster in the coffin, although I will not be deaf, mute, or blind directly, I will slowly lose everything as time goes by. However, abilities such as the Nine Eyes Heaven Realm, the Netherworld Ghost Sea, and the Pure Lotus Seal will not disappear. Even if they disappear, the memory inheritance in my mind is enough for me to cope with the next road. More than 20 years ago, when my grandfather took back my limbs and five senses, the sky coffin should have been broken, but Su Tianxian bought me more than 20 years with his own life. But now, the sky coffin is no longer able to support it, and only the return of the limbs and five senses can delay the time of fragmentation. Once the sky coffin is broken, the whole world will fall into chaos, and no one will be able to solve it all. Grandpa, I'm ready to wake up, just do it. Grandpa looked at me with distressed eyes, and finally let out a long sigh. He didn't say anything, he just kneaded the secrets with his hands and muttered something. The next moment, golden mantras appeared around Grandpa. He finally picked up the sword and pointed it at me. Countless golden mantras enveloped me. Immediately afterwards, I felt as if something was being pulled out of my body, spreading around. I don't feel any changes in my body, it's the same as before, but I know that as time goes by, I will slowly lose my limbs and five senses. It is most likely that the vision becomes blurred at first, or it may be that the right hand gradually loses consciousness, which is equivalent to chronic death. But, at this moment, I have no regrets. My mother hoped that I would live a safe and healthy life, but since the day I was born, my life was destined to be anything but ordinary. Grandpa took a deep breath, looked at me and said, "Xiao Su, don't worry, everything has its own destiny. Maybe in the future, you can find a way to restore your limbs and five senses." I smiled and said, "Grandpa, don't worry, I will keep going." Grandpa looked at me with a kind face, stretched out his big rough hands, gently touched my cheek, and said, "Xiao Su, I've suffered so much for you." I smiled calmly, it was bitter indeed. But, this is my life. I suddenly remembered something and asked, "Grandpa, do you know anything about the tombs of the gods? For example, who imprisoned the gods?" Grandpa's expression suddenly turned serious and he said, "Xiao Su, Grandpa doesn't know much about the tombs of the gods, but everything imprisoned in the coffins was caused by the gods." I was slightly startled and asked, "Grandpa, do you mean that the monsters on each level of the sky coffin were born because of the gods?" "Yes, gods may seem aloof, but their greed is more terrifying than ours." I frowned. I always thought that the purpose of my reincarnation was to escape from the divine position, but now it seems, my purpose is not that simple. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1443. At this time, I suddenly remembered the scene of confronting the gods in the dream space. I clearly remember that the gods were very afraid of one existence, and that was it. In other words, there are more terrifying existences above the gods. If there is anyone in this world who knows the truth about the tombs of the gods, it is only Zhao Mian. But if I ask, will he tell me? I sighed helplessly, let's solve the matter at hand first. Xiao Su, Grandpa's time is running out, and there are only a few times left for you and me to meet each other. After we say goodbye this time, we don't know when we will see each other again. I don't know how my grandfather appeared in my mind to meet me. But, all this doesn't seem so important anymore. Xiao Su, Grandpa doesn't know if he will see you next time. Grandpa, I looked at Grandpa and said, "Don't worry, I will survive." Grandpa smiled kindly at me and said, "Grandpa believes in you." After saying this, my grandfather's figure gradually disappeared, and my vision went dark. When I regained my sight again, I was in the world of Tien Coffin. Those zombies were almost approaching the palace. I spread my palms and tried to move, but there was nothing unusual. Alas! I let out a long sigh, hoping that the loss of my 5 senses and limbs would be slower. I looked up at the sky and found that the previously broken sky was slowly recovering. I adjusted my mentality and walked towards the palace. I thought a lot along the way and I don't regret my choice. Because I don't want to see anyone sacrifice for me anymore. Whether it's Su Tianxian, Huaxiu, Miao Fengluan, or even that silly bird Xiao He. In my heart, I have long regarded them as family. If I had to choose between me and them, I would choose to sacrifice myself without hesitation. They were all helping me along the way. I thought maybe it was time for me to face everything alone. Through this incident in the underworld, I already knew that I faced many difficulties. Because of me, Huaxiu and others were captured, and now I don't know where they are. When I learned that Su Tianxian had lost her memory, I wanted to push her away from me and let her leave this strange circle. In fact, if I think about it carefully, I can achieve this goal if I leave alone. It seems that it is necessary to talk to Zhao Mian alone and listen to his plan. Although Zhao Mian is my evil soul, I have never regarded him as another me. He has his own thoughts and plans. Although he was born because of me, he does not live in my shadow. Zhao Miancheng is very deep and has always wanted to kill me. However, I think it is possible for us to cooperate on this, but, the premise of cooperation is mutual honesty. When I thought of this, I had already arrived at the palace. I hid in the dark and observed the actions of these zombies. I saw densely packed zombies kneeling on the ground, as if they were afraid of something. At this moment, a roar echoed throughout the palace. The sound was like a huge bell ringing in my ears, making me feel dizzy. When I came back to my senses, the whole ground began to shake violently. A huge beast came out of the palace. This is Ancient Jian. He was huge, but he was chained, and his eyes had an anthropomorphic look. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1444. The Jian is shaped like a rabbit, with long pointed ears, lion-like hair, snake-like neck, mirage-like belly, front paws like an eagle and rear paws like a tiger. I have seen golden retriever roar before in Penglay Immortal Island. The shape of that golden retriever roar is the same as the one in front of me, but the one in front of me is very huge, and it is majestic and domineering. The golden-haired Zhang is just a continuation of the ancient Zhang's bloodline, and the ancient Zhang is the ancestor of the Zhang and the source of the ancestors of the 4 zombies. Moreover, the ancient dragon was very powerful and was the nemesis of the dragon clan. It was good at eating Borneal. There is a folk saying that one dragon can fight 3 dragons and 2 dragons, which shows its strength. The ancient Jian is chained and cannot leave the palace. It is sitting in the palace hall, with thousands of corpses crawling under it, and its body is trembling. In this world, the ancient Jian is the king here, and it is reasonable for the corpses to fear it. Middle. The general also entered the coffin. Until now, I have not seen him. The 4 ancestors of zombies were born from the ancient Jian. In other words, the 4 ancestors of zombies are part of the ancient Jian. The general went to great lengths to enter the sky coffin, probably because he wanted to merge with the ancient Jian, so as to make the ancient Jian more powerful. Increase, break free from the chains, and break the sky coffin. At this moment, the ancient beast let out a roar that resounded throughout the world, causing thousands of corpses to tremble and bang their heads at the ancient beast. I frowned. What was Gu Huan planning? Just when I was doubtful, a scene that shocked me happened. I saw more than 10,000 corpses lining up and walking towards the ancient beast. The ancient beast opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the zombie in front of him directly. Then, I clearly felt that the aura of the ancient beast became stronger in an instant, and the chains on his body began to shake crazily. The 9 chains that tied the ancient beast were directly embedded in the flesh and blood of the ancient beast. Seeing this, I understood the purpose of the ancient jade. He is strengthening himself by eating zombies, thereby breaking free from the chains. I can no longer stand aside and watch indifferently. As long as the ancient jade breaks free of its chains, then, I think it will be very difficult to deal with it. Just when I was about to use my means to stop the ancient jade, a familiar figure walked over from not far away. I looked carefully and my pupils trembled slightly. It was the general. What shocked me was not the general, but the people following him. There are 3 people following the general, namely Yinggo, Ho Qing and Han Bao. Weren't Yinggo and Ho Qing eliminated by me? I suddenly remembered the scene when I was dealing with Yinggo and Ho Qing. The 2 of them seemed to have no fear of death, but were willing to die. Could it be that, like the generals, their bodies were destroyed but their souls were still there, and then they entered the sky coffin? According to common sense, zombies transformed from dead bodies have no souls. Only with high cultivation can a soul be born. However, if the soul is trapped in the body before death, the zombie body can have a soul. However, the generals, Yinggo, and Ho Qing are all the ancestors of the 4 zombies. They were born from the soul of Jian, which means they have souls. The drought demon is even more special. It is the goddess of drought, so it is normal to have a soul. As for Huaxiu, she has been cultivating for thousands of years, and now she has reached the highest level of zombie. Without turning into bones, she naturally has a soul. However, for existences like zombies, even if there is a soul in the body, they will not be reincarnated after death. After the ancient Jian saw the 4 ancestors of zombies, a look of surprise flashed in his eyes, but my heart became extremely solemn. The appearance of the 4 ancestors of zombies made my situation much more dangerous, but why did they appear here? Here. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1445. I put together what happened during this time. The 4 ancestors of the zombies found 4 places to raise corpses, absorb the corpse energy, and improve their moral conduct. And if the ancient Jiao wants to break free from the chains and break the sky coffin, he needs stronger strength. Although the number of zombies in the sky coffin is large, it is ultimately limited. I don't know what the ancient Jiao's strength will be after eating all these zombies. Situation. The 4 zombie ancestors absorb corpse energy outside, accumulate Taoism, and then return to the ancient Jian body. In other words, all the Taoism of the 4 zombie ancestors will be owned by the ancient Jian. I sneered in my heart. It was obvious that the ancient Jiao wanted to win steadily, so he actually set up such a big situation. However, I was still not cautious enough. Who would have thought that after their bodies were destroyed, they could directly enter the sky coffin? General, Yinggo, I can still understand the queen's appearance here. After all, I destroyed their bodies, but why did the female slave appear here? She came to the underworld with me, and we parted in the river Styx. There are only 2 judgments in my mind about this. The first one is that the female slave was captured by people sent by Emperor Fengdu and suffered an accident. Although Hanbao is strong, Emperor Fengdu not only has 10 palaces of Yamas, but also 5 ghost emperors. If the ghost emperor of the 5 directions takes action, even if the female demon has a break and Lu Hangxuan comes to help, it will be a disaster. The most terrifying thing is that there is Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva. The underworld is emptied out by the gods in the tomb of the gods. In other words, the entire underworld is my enemy. The second judgment is that the female slave betrayed me and was deceiving me from the beginning. However, I feel that this possibility is unlikely. After all, the female slayer did not use it to betray me, so I am more inclined to the first judgment. This made me worry about the safety of Huaxiu and others. Although Su Tianqian said that this matter should be left to her, I feel that this matter is not as simple as it seems. Generals, Yinggo, Ho Qing, Han Bao, and the ancestors of the 4 zombies came to the ancient Jian. Ancient, who stopped eating, turned his huge body around, and looked down at the 4 ancestors of zombies coldly. "You are finally back." The ancient Jian did not open his mouth, but his voice exploded across the world. His speaking voice was extremely hoarse, accompanied by an endless sense of oppression. He was worthy of being a mythical beast that existed in ancient times to this day. It was really powerful. The general nodded and replied, "Something has delayed me. Now there is a very important thing. That guy has also entered the sky coffin." Shang Guhuan nodded, looked up at the sky, and said, "He has indeed come in, because the slowly broken sky coffin has been repaired, and the seal on my body has become a little heavier." The general looked around seriously. The female slave didn't say a word from beginning to end, and she never looked for me again, intentionally or unintentionally. With this subtle move, I can tell that the female slave has not betrayed me. Maybe she has her own plan when she comes here, because she promised me before that she would deal with the ancient beast with me. Maybe the female slave is the key to breaking the situation. Time is running out. If I keep dragging it on, even if you return to my body, I won't be able to break the coffin." Shang Guhuan said. The general said, "In this case, without further delay, we will carry out soul fusion. You order these zombies to find Lu Su. After all, with us here, you don't need these zombies anymore. Their role at the moment is to find Lu Su. To delay time for us." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1446. Soul fusion takes time and requires rituals. Once the souls of the 4 zombie ancestors merge with the ancient Qiao will break free of the seal, thereby breaking the seal of this layer of the sky coffin. Ancient, who nodded, turned around, opened his bloody mouth, and let out a roar that resounded throughout the world. After the roar, Wang Ji suddenly stood up and attacked in all directions. I frowned. Tens of thousands of corpses were searching for my traces on such a large scale. It was only a matter of time before they found me. They had to destroy the ancient soul fusion ceremony. At this time, the female slave raised her head, opened her red lips, and cold words rang in my ears. "Why should I listen to you?" The general, the queen, and Yinggo were slightly startled, and at the same time they turned around to look at the female slave. "Don't you want to take revenge?" The general looked at the female slave jokingly and continued, "The person who sealed you is Lu Su. Only when our souls are fused together can we kill Lu Su. Am I the one who sealed the female demon? I really have no impression of this matter. When I first met the female demon told me that it was the gods who sealed her, and now she says it was me. Does all this make me feel a little dizzy? Who is telling the truth?" The female slave looked at the general coldly, then lowered her head and thought for a moment, and said, "Let me think about it." "There's no time to think about it. Lu Su has already entered the coffin. He may not be somewhere waiting to take action against us at the moment," the general said with a solemn expression. The beautiful eyes of the female demon were still extremely cold, and she said word by word, "Since you don't give me time to think about it, then I can choose to commit suicide. Once I die, your plan will not be realized. The female slaves, generals, queens, and Yinggo have the soul of the ancient Jian in their bodies. They turned into zombies because of the soul of the ancient Jian. If the ancient Jian wants to regain its peak strength, it must rely on the souls of the 4 zombie ancestors. The dead are indispensable. The general's expression was ugly and his face was ashen. He looked at Shang Guhuan, and Shang Guhuan's voice sounded in my ears. I only give you one stick of incense to think about. The female demon glanced at the ancient beast lightly, then turned and left the hall. Looking at the back of the female demon leaving, I suddenly realized that the female demon was probably not considering whether to cooperate with the ancient beast, but looking for me. Thinking of this, I cast Nine Eyes' heavenly domain and left the hall. The female demon came outside the temple and looked around with her cold eyes. The endless zombies were running around like crazy, sniffing like crazy, looking for me. I hid in the dark and once again used the Nine Eyes' heavenly domain to cover the female demon. The female slayer was slightly startled. Before she could figure out what was going on, she disappeared from the same place. When she reappeared, she was in front of her. The female slave looked at me in surprise. I smiled at her and asked, "Why are you here?" The female demon did not answer, but looked around cautiously, and I said, "Don't worry, no one in the Nine Eyes Heaven realm will notice our existence, and no one will hear the conversation between you and me." The vigilant look of the female demon slowly disappeared, and she smiled bitterly at me and said, "It's a long story, why I came here. I'll tell you later. Let's first talk about how to deal with the ancient beast." It seems that my guess is good, the female demon really has a way to deal with the ancient beast. Lu Su, listen carefully to what I say next. This is the only way to defeat the ancient beast. If you miss it, no matter how strong you are, you will not be able to stop the ancient beast from leaving here. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1447. I nodded and said, "You tell me." The female demon pondered for a moment and said, "I will enter the body of the ancient beast and help you kill it." Hearing these words, I frowned and asked, "If you enter the body of the ancient dragon, wouldn't you die?" The female demon nodded and replied, "Yes, he will die." "No. This is absolutely not possible," I refused without thinking. "I won't let you die because of this matter, I can't do it." Although I have not known the female slave for a long time, I have long regarded her as a friend in my heart. The female slave looked at me calmly and said, "Lu Su, the burden on your shoulders is very heavy. You have to know one thing. People who can't give up anything can't change anything." "You're right," I agreed with what the female slave said. I changed the subject and said, "But, I can't let you die just to achieve my goal. Unless, there is a way to save you." The female demon obviously didn't expect that I would say such a thing. She let out a long sigh and said, "I told you before that I was sealed by the gods. They abandoned me here and were afraid of my power. Seal me, but you are the one who executes the seal. At that time, you told me that you couldn't change anything at that time, so, you could only seal me and promised me that you would release me after 1,000 years and let me regain my freedom. It turns out that the truth 1,000 years ago was this." The female demon sighed slightly and said, "I often wonder, what would it have been like if I had not been abandoned by the gods, but had gained the status of a god? After thinking about it, I guess I will be like the gods, influenced by greed for power." I looked at the female demon, pondered for a moment, and asked, "Do you know, the reason why the gods were sealed?" "Yeah," the female demon nodded and replied, "I know a little bit. I was so happy that I didn't expect that the thing I had been pursuing so hard would get the answer from Nuba." I motioned to the female demon to continue. "You, Lu Su, Emperor Ziwei, are among the first batch of gods to obtain the status of gods. From the beginning, the gods will also fulfill their duties, save all living beings, and maintain the existing order in this world. But, you have also experienced so many things, and you have gained a little understanding of God. Humanity is greedy, and so is divinity. And you don't want to follow the crowd, nor do you want to be imprisoned and free, so you start to make plans to reincarnate for eternity, just to escape from the divine position. You did succeed, but you succeeded too late. You have many reincarnations, and only certain reincarnations can complete your plan. Most reincarnations will be noticed by the gods and killed, and then you will enter reincarnation again. The female demon is right. In the endless reincarnations, I have only done something in certain lives. As for other reincarnations, I have no memory. The female demon continued, during your limited reincarnation, you made plans while sealing the products of divine greed in the sky coffin, which are these monsters. In the final analysis, it is no one else but their greed that seals the gods. Greed. Are the gods sealed by themselves? I asked this question, and the female slayer shook her head and replied, I don't know about this matter, but there is one thing I am sure of. There are more terrifying existences above the gods. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1448. My guess is good, there are indeed more terrifying existences above the gods. I will continue to explore what kind of existence it is specifically. Tell me, how can I save you? The female slayer plans to sacrifice herself in exchange for the opportunity to kill Jinmaha. I don't really agree with this plan. The female demon lowered her eyes and said nothing. I continued, if you don't tell me how to save you, I will use my own method to kill Jinmaha and take you out of here. People who can't give up anything really can't achieve anything. I, Lu Su, can give up everything about myself, but I cannot give up the people around me, let alone put the people around me in danger. The female demon was silent for a long time and replied, when my soul enters Jinmaha's body, keep my body and pull me out of Jinmaha's body within 2 sticks of incense. Only in this way can I be safe and sound thing. The female demon raised her head, looked at me, raised a wry smile and said, Lu Su, you have to know that it's not that easy to pull away the soul, and you can't kill Jinmaha in 2 sticks of incense. Pulling out the soul, I couldn't help but laugh and said, it may be difficult for others to pull out the soul, but for me, it's very simple. The female demon doesn't know much about my strength. I have soul-stealing blood hands. It's extremely easy to extract a person's soul. What can you do? I smiled and said, you will know then. Alas. The female slave let out a long sigh and said, this matter is not as simple as you think. Even if you have a way to extract the soul, you have to know that the soul of the ancient slave is very powerful. To the extreme, otherwise it would not have divided its soul into 4 parts and gave birth to the 4 ancestors of zombies respectively. And the only way you can defeat him is for me to enter its body, fight against its soul, and thereby disintegrate him internally. The soul of ancient Jian is indeed very powerful. Even if the soul is divided into 4 parts, it can still exist in the world. After the female demon enters the ancient Jian's body, she has to fight against the 4 souls of the general, Yinggo, Ho Qing, and the ancient Jian. This process is very dangerous. Once the female demon's soul merges with the ancient Jian's soul, the female demon will there is no possibility of survival. Don't worry about this matter. I will find a solution. I will take you out of that place and I will be responsible for you to the end. The female slave was startled and said nothing. I hesitated for a moment and asked, how are Huashiu and the others doing? The female demon's expression became condensed and she said to me, their situation is very dangerous. The people who captured them are the Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions and Emperor Fendu. I don't know what they want to do, but I speculate that Emperor Fendu I want to threaten you through their safety, threaten you to open the tomb of the gods, or break the coffin of the sky. A nameless rage burned in my heart. Unexpectedly, this Emperor Fendu could be so cunning and cunning. The female slave said, so, Lu Su, you don't have much time. Here, you can only save your strength, before you can go out to save them. If you are seriously injured here, how can you save your friends and, where are your relatives? So, Lu Su, Don't care about my life or death, choose to let me sacrifice, and your losses will be minimized. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1449. I understand what the female demon means. If I am seriously injured or dying against the ancient dragon, then I will not be able to save Huaxiu and the others. Although Su Tianqian went to rescue Huaxiu and the others, it was not that easy to rescue them. Su Tianqian had not found Huaxiu, Cai Dai and their whereabouts before, which meant that Emperor Fengdu had deliberately hidden them. The underworld is the only force left by the gods in the tomb of the gods in the world. They will not harm Su Tianqian. After all, Su Tianqian is now the only key to break the tomb of the gods. However, it cannot be ruled out that after I return Jusha to the palace, they will use conspiracy and tricks to get me to open the tomb of the gods. The dilemma at hand is indeed difficult to make a choice and to solve the situation. But, I have a trump card, and that is water suppressing beads. As long as I use the water suppressing beads to flood the entire underworld, then, I have a chance to rescue Huaxiu and Cai Dai. Although Emperor Fengdu was powerful, the Styx River stopped flowing and overflowed, just like when people faced natural and man-made disasters, floods and tsunamis, even gods had no room for resistance. I understand what you said, but if I can't save you, how can I save others? So, you just have to do what I say. After saying that, I bit off my index finger, put the bloody finger on the forehead of the female demon, then squeezed the formula with both hands and chanted the formula. The female demon looked at me with some confusion, and I explained, I have penetrated my consciousness into your body, so that even if you escape to the ends of the world, I can still find you. In other words, I will accurately even if you withdraw from the ancient body, you can always pay attention to your safety. Seeing my persistence, the female slave said nothing more. It's almost time. The female demon looked at the main hall and said solemnly, after my soul enters the body, I will try my best to compete with the ancient Ji-un for control of the body. Even if I can't compete, I can still restrict some of his actions. You must make a decisive decision and kill the ancient beast. I nodded and replied, okay, I understand. I took back the Nine Eyes Heaven realm, and then the female demon walked towards the palace. I didn't follow her to the palace. Instead, I used the power of the Nine Eyes Heavenly Domain to shuttle around the palace and lay spells. It is difficult to kill the ancient beast. After all, there are still zombies that are in the way. A large formation must be set up to have a chance of success. I speeded up and set up a large formation. When I was setting up the formation, some zombies had already noticed me. Therefore, I could only deal with these zombies while setting up the formation. After the formation was completed, I came to the main hall. At this moment, a huge formation has been set up in the main hall. The ancient Ji-un is located in the center of the formation, and the generals, queens, Yinggu, and Hanba are located in the four feng shui eyes of the formation. This should be some kind of soul-melting magic circle. The general said before that it will take time to successfully return them to the ancient body. They have been wandering outside for thousands of years and have already developed independent wills and thoughts. To put it simply, in other words, it takes time for a new soul to enter the ancient body, and it needs the assistance of the magic circle. When the general saw me, his eyes were full of viciousness and resentment. His hatred was overwhelming and he wished he could eat me alive. Lu Su, you are finally here. I held my right hand in the air, and Jing Xiao appeared out of thin air. I pointed my sword at the general and said, you can run away for a while, can you run away for a lifetime? Today, you will die. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1450. The general's expression was extremely ugly. At this moment, the ancient dragon let out a roar that resounded throughout the world. Immediately afterwards, countless zombies rushed towards the main hall. Ancient Jian's voice sounded like a bell in my ears. "Lu Su, why are you fighting with us?" I looked up at Shang Guhuan's huge head and sneered, "What can I use to fight you? Of course it's my strength." As soon as I finished speaking, I took a step forward, and the yin and yang double dragon diagram appeared under my feet, and then expanded instantly, covering the entire hall. I let out a light cry, and two dragons, one black and one white, soared into the sky from the picture. In an instant, the sound of dragon roars echoed throughout the world. Two blue dragons circled and danced in the air, rushing toward the ancient dragon with its bloody mouth open. Murderous intent flashed across the eyes of the ancient Hu, his aura surged, and the two flying blue dragons were directly knocked away. I furrowed my brows. This ancient Jian is truly terrifying in strength. I controlled two blue dragons, one black and one white, to attack the ancient dragon again. The ancient dragon stood in the magic circle and was unable to move. It could only rely on its own momentum to frighten the two blue dragons. The aura exuded by the ancient dragon alone forced the yin and yang dragons to be unable to get close. I didn't use all my strength, and the dragon energy seal in my body had not been lifted yet. I didn't really want to stop the ancient Jian, because I wanted to implement the female demon's plan. If we don't implement the female scourge's plan and directly stop the ancient beast, the chance of success is very low, very low. Because, I not only have to face the ancient beast, but also thousands of corpses. This situation is a sure death for me. At this moment, those zombies had already rushed into the hall, attacking me like zombies crossing the border in a zombie movie. I can only control the yin and yang dragons to deal with these zombies. The twin dragons of yin and yang roared in, and with a flick of their huge dragon tails, a large number of zombies were thrown away. However, the number of these zombies is so large that it makes one's scalp numb. If you repel some, countless more zombies will take over. At this time, bursts of roaring sounds came from the sky. It was those flying zombies. Fei's Hung is not easy to deal with. After all, their Taoism has been at least a few hundred years. Fei's Hung swooped down, my face condensed, and I cast the pure lotus mark. The holy white light condensed around me and turned into a snow-white lotus. Countless flying zombies directly hit the lotus shadow. I frowned and flew backwards. I stabilized my body and looked solemn. These flying zombies were of high moral character and extremely powerful. Although they could not directly break through the lotus shadow, they were powerful enough to knock me away. The voice of ancient Jian rang in my ears. "With your strength, it's just wishful thinking to stop me." Shang Guhuan's voice was full of disdain. At the same time, the soul-melting array emitted a dazzling light, and the soul-melting ceremony began. A powerful force burst out from the soul-melting array. The powerful force forced me to retreat continuously. The generals and queens win the hook, and little stars emerge from the body of the female demon and fly towards the ancient dragon. The process of soul fusion will not end immediately. It will probably take about 10 minutes. What I have to do now is to resist the attack of the zombie wave. Moreover, even if I try to destroy the soul melting formation now, I still can't do it, because the soul melting formation is an ancient formation, and it is very difficult to destroy it with my current strength. I can only wait until the soul melting reaches the critical moment. Only then can I take action.